I know most of your kids through lunch, and just we all seem to know each other's kids, so that's cool. So I'm really glad you're here. And the thing that I'm going to be showing you, the kids are probably pretty good at this by now, because we do this almost from the second day of school. And we call it proving our answers. And in the beginning of the year, oh, I meant to cut this out. I try to get them excited about, oh, we're looking for clues, like a detective, right? So that's basically what we are doing is we're looking for clues in the writing, in the text that help us answer the questions that follow. So what we do in class is I'm just going to do basically with you what I would do with the students, okay? And the kids bring homework home every week. We keep asking the kids, when they're in class, they prove, because they don't hand it in unless it's proven. But the homework seems to keep coming back without proving. So I thought this could help you guys know what we're looking for from the children. And one of the reasons we do it is we don't want them guessing on their answers, because when they hand it in, they should be sure that, yep, I got it right. Because if you prove your answers, you know you got it right. There's no guesswork. Every now and then there's a tricky question, but for the most part you can prove what they're asking. And even if it's an inferred question where it doesn't come right out and say it in the writing, we still expect them to find something that lets us know this is why I'm picking this answer. Like if I always say when I tell the kids about this, like if a story says Mary went to bed with a smile on her face, and then the question says how did Mary feel when she went to bed? Happy, sad, angry, embarrassed. Well, she was happy, and what they would underline is she had a smile on her face. So even though it doesn't say Mary went to bed happy, she went to bed with a smile on her face, so they can still prove it to us, okay? So that's what we're doing when we say prove, prove, prove. And what I'm going to do is, I don't think we're going to have time to do both of these, but it would be cool if then maybe you did the second one at home. So let me decide which one I would rather do with you. Okay, I think I'm going to do the skunk one with you, okay? And if we have time, I'll do the first one with you too. But I remember the skunk one has some pretty good inferred questions. Let me decide. I was going to do both of them with you, but I don't think we're going to have time. Yeah, we'll do the skunk. Okay, so in the beginning, we start out reading it with your children, and then gradually we release it so that they're reading it and answering it by themselves. But in the beginning, I'll do what we do, and in fact, we still usually do this maybe once a week just to keep reminding them how to do this. So, Skunk helps his friend. One day, Beaver and Skunk decided to go camping. Beaver had been camping many times, but Skunk had never been camping before. Skunk wanted to be a good camper, but he couldn't do anything right. When Beaver cut wood for the fire, Skunk tripped and knocked over all the logs. When they went to catch fish, poor Skunk caught only a rusty tin can. Skunk hoped Beaver would want to stay for only one night. During the night, a loud noise made Skunk and Beaver sit up in their sleeping bags. It sounded like a growl. It came from outside the tent. Beaver hid under his sleeping bag. "What was that?" he whispered. "I'm going to find out," answered Skunk. He opened the tent flap and walked out. "Who's there?" Skunk called. There was another growl, and the bushes shook. Skunk bravely walked towards the sound. He raised his tail and said, "Come out now or you'll be sorry." And then like in class, usually I'm stopping and asking them questions along the way. Like, do you guys know skunk? Why would they be sorry if a skunk raises his tail? Does anyone know what a skunk will do? Yes?
Because a skunk will release a bad odor.
Yes, that's its means of protection, isn't it? So it's going to lift up its tail and it's going to shoot some release of bad odor. That was a good way to put it. And so he's saying, "Hey, you'll be sorry because I'm about to spray." The bushes shook again, so Skunk sprayed his skunk smell. Suddenly, a big bear ran out of the bushes and away from the campsite. All right, now we encourage the kids to read it twice. We're not going to do that now, but there's always things you catch, and when it's something this important, like in April, we'll be having the benchmark test for reading, and something that important, read it twice. It's not going to kill you, I've never ever had a child injured from reading something twice. I'm sorry, I thought it was over. Thank you, Skunk. You're a great camper, said Beaver. Skunk smiled. Maybe I am a great camper after all, he said to himself. Yay, so he finally did something good that made him feel good about his camping skills. All right, so when Beaver, these three are the details of an inference. It says, what inference belongs on the line? So, when Beaver cut wood, Skunk knocked over the logs. When they went to catch fish, Skunk only caught a rusty tin can. Skunk hoped Beaver would only want to stay for one night. So which inference belongs on the line? And then I'll read the choices to them out loud, and they'll say either no or maybe, but they're not allowed to say yes until I've read all four choices. So I'll say, Skunk is having a good time camping with Beaver. Is that what these things prove, that Skunk is having a good time? Catching a tin can, is he having a good time? No. He only wants to stay for one night?
No.
So it's definitely not this first one, so I'm going to get rid of that. That's out of there. Okay, Skunk is learning how to be a good camper. That's kind of tricky. Yes or no or maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, he is learning to be the camper, right? But do these prove that he's learning to be a good camper? What are these actually showing us? That he's what? He's having a...
Not that good of a time.
Yeah, he's having not that good of a time. He didn't want to catch a tin can. He wanted to catch a fish. He didn't mean to knock over the log, so he just feels like he's just messing things up. So he is learning to be a camper, but these don't prove that. And that's sometimes how they try to trick you. They'll say something that's true, but it's not true for that question. You know what I mean? So the kids really have to be thinking on their toes. Skunk feels he is a bad camper and wants to go home. Is that what these three are telling us? He feels he's a bad camper and wants to go home. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Or thumbs sideways? Thumbs up? So we're going to say maybe, because that's not our last one. And we got to give all four answers a chance. So Skunk feels that camping is only something beavers can do.
No.
That's not what those say, is it? So we're going to go with Skunk feels he is a bad camper and wants to go home. So in this case, well, if we went back to the story, we would just underline, these things are straight from the story. So these basically, what I do is I take the number that you're answering, and basically this gives us text from the story that we're using. So I let them prove it right here. If we went back, we would find these same statements right here. Like Skunk hoped Beaver would only stay for one night. He tripped over and knocked over all the logs. That's part of answer one. And right here. So I guess normally I do encourage them to go back and prove it anyway. So, because otherwise they'll just try to throw a number in there somewhere. But, so here's where all those things are mentioned. And here's where we're seeing that Skunk's not having such a good time.
Ms. Denfo, can I add something here? One of the things that's really tough as well is when you look at that question, one of the choices is Skunk is learning to be a good camper. What's tough about that is he does learn to be a good camper throughout the passage. But when we look at that evidence, that's not what that evidence is proving. So they really have to concentrate sometimes on really just the question, what the question is answering,
Right.
rather than thinking about what they learned in the whole passage. And sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes the question will be about the whole passage instead of just focusing on the one question. So really what we have to do is when we read the question, like the first thing they have to do is comprehend what the question is, which is really hard sometimes. So they really have to know, what really is the question asking me? Is it asking me about the whole story, or is it asking me about this graphic organizer? So that's another challenge for them to face.
Yeah, I told them that a lot of times it'll give something true, but it's not true for this question.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question. After reading paragraph 3, what might you predict was outside the tent? Okay, here's the tricky part, is it'll say paragraph 3. And, you know, usually the kids have to go look at the whole passage and find that one little sentence that proves it. But this is actually telling you paragraph 3. And then sometimes the kids don't take the time to go back to paragraph 3. And, I mean, they're telling you right there, go back to paragraph 3. So if you go back to paragraph 3, we're going to read that whole paragraph and we're going to decide what could we think that animal could be. Now, at the end of the story, kids, what do we know is the animal by the end of the story? It's a what? Right, it was a bear, right? But it's saying, act like you didn't read the whole story, and after paragraph 3, what could you think it is? So, paragraph 3 says, during the night, a loud noise made Skunk and Beaver sit up in their sleeping bags. It sounded like a growl. It came from outside the tent. Okay, that is all it wants us to read. Paragraph 3, right there. So let's go back and look at our choices. Okay, do you think it could be a rabbit in the bushes? I didn't think yours were good. Okay, you're right. No, it can't be a rabbit. Could it be a dog?
It could.
Maybe. Could it be a turtle? No. Could it be a deer? Okay, who can tell me what is the most important thing from paragraph 3 that tells us it can't be a rabbit, it can't be a deer, it can't be a turtle? What is the most?
It could be a dog.
Okay,
Because
why?
dogs can be.
Aha, growl. Right there, that's the word, growl. It sounded like a growl. So this answers question number 2. And growl is the most important. Now I already did this one with my students in my class, and I had a heart attack when I graded it because some of them chose a rabbit. And when does a rabbit growl? It doesn't growl, does it? So,
I had a lot of
tells me-
deer, Miss Denfield, a lot of deer. Because deer are always in the forest, but one
Yeah.
of the things we didn't look at was paragraph 3 where it says the animal growls. So we've got to go back and look at paragraph 3. The inference has to be based on paragraph 3.
And then when I went over it with them and we discussed it, they were like, oh,
Right?
you know that a rabbit doesn't growl. So, I mean, really, it's just to take your time. And I think maybe sometimes fear gets in the way, like, I want to get the right answer. Just forget about fear. We know what we're doing. We got this, right?
Right.
All right, so we decided it's going to be a dog. At that point, it could only be a dog because a dog is the only one of these 4 that could growl. So we answered, now this is question number 2. So I'm putting a 2 next to growl. Does that make sense, everybody?